Thank you for watching this short video, much shorter in fact than previous videos that I've done in relation to 2012 and embracing Christ consciousness. The theme of this short video as part of that series is really looking at guilt, real or false, in our life. For if it is false guilt or real guilt, it can actually have an impact on our relationship with the cosmic Christ. Let me explain. For those who don't know me as Brother Sean, the Barefoot Franciscan monk, I was once a nursing monk in a Catholic order that dated back to the 14th century, and I was so privileged, having left school at 11 with no formal training, that the order put me through some basic academic skills that would enable me to pass my hospital exam and become a fully qualified state-registered nurse that went on to give 38 years of my professional life as a qualified nurse, of which the last 12 years were as a senior nurse caring for the dying, both in a hospital acute setting and in the community. So I've encountered a lot of mixed feelings disguised as blessings and many challenges in supporting beautiful individuals who were approaching their end-of-life experience. Many had a peaceful death, with a lot of help and professional support from ourselves, from our team on night duty, ensuring that they had adequate pain control where there was dignity and love. But sadly, there were those who had an uncomfortable death, where there was pain, where there was anger, where there was fear. But on a personal level, I experienced my own mother, excuse me a moment, I experienced with my own mother, who died last year. She did not have a peaceful death, per se, because she was frightened. And a lot of her fear was rooted in her religious belief that her church had condemned her as a sinner, as our loving church, the Catholic Church, condemned many of us as being sinful in the eyes of God, and that we had to work at our salvation by doing good deeds and by living a good exemplary life. But what is so tragic is that our non-Catholic Christian brothers and sisters can approach death in a very different, pragmatic way. They see it as the end of a beginning. They see it as a preparation, our life on earth, and that there is no guilt at the end of life, but a desire to cross over and be with one's God and one's family and friends. But what I found with Dear Mom is I found with so many thousands of Catholics who were dying, very few had a peaceful death. For there was always that deep-rooted fear and anxiety that they would go to hell. And I would spend many an hour sat by their bedside in the middle of the night, holding their hand, trying to allay their fear, even though they were having all sorts of pain control being pumped into their system to keep their pain at an acceptable level. And it was a joy, it was a privilege, and it was a deeply humbling, enriching experience to be a part of one's journey to God. The deathbed is a time when you do encounter a lot of challenges that even make you question your belief in God. And I've done that many times, where a good person who lived an exemplary life and who did lots of good things for others would experience a lot of discomfort at death. And it would make me ask God why. But when I come to the realization, fear is an illusion. It has no face, but yet it's deeply rooted in many of the children of God who are associated or part of the Abrahamic faith tradition of Jew, Muslim, or Christian. But Catholic Christians carry with them a lot of unnecessary guilt, where they blame themselves needlessly. And I've encountered another aspect of it manifesting itself when a beautiful, loving family have to make the decision, as painful as it is, to have mom or dad taken into residential care because they cannot cope with their dementia. And many's a time I've befriended such beautiful souls, and the guilt is so real. They find it so hard to come to terms with putting their beloved mom and dad in a residential care setting away from their home, and they know that their loved one is pleading with them not to send them. But having a young family and a busy lifestyle and needing 24-hour round the cover professional support, they cannot offer that. So you have a family unit in crisis that needs help. But here I find that when you come into such a place as this, and you just ask God to guide you, to speak with you, to guide you, to comfort you, if we're willing to be patient, if we're willing to be still, if we're willing to take time out and reflect, what is God saying to my heart? And God does speak to people's hearts to relinquish their fear. As Jesus said in his lifetime, place your burdens on me, for I am meek and humble of heart. But he also said, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. We are each faced with challenges. The challenges inevitably become a cross, but it's how we handle that cross. It's how we handle the difficulties. And if we truly are God-fearing, loving children of God, then we know we're not on this journey alone. A, we're given the help and the support that we need to shoulder that burden. And two, more importantly, God sends his troops. He sends wise people who will support us, such as the palliative care team, a social worker, a good minister or pastor, rabbi or priest. He may also provide good neighbours who will help alleviate some of the burden. But the burden of guilt is our responsibility. And we have a duty to release that burden because if we don't, it saps our strength, it eats away at God's peace, and it denies us the opportunity of embracing Christ consciousness. What I'd like to share with you is a real story when I was on night duty back in 2006-07 of a Franciscan priest who had been in ministry for 60 odd years, and he had a terminal illness. He was frightened. He'd been given his diagnosis. None of his community were present. He felt very alone, very vulnerable, and I could tell by his body language when I was doing the observations at 2 a.m. that he seemed distressed. I drew the curtains around his bed. I sat on a chair beside him. I held his hand. He knew I was a monk. He knew I was a nursing monk many years ago, but he knew I'd left. But he also knew that he could talk with me and trust me as I could him. And he started crying. And then he asked me, is there a God? Sean, is there a God? And I said, why do you ask this? You've given 60 odd years. He said 64. I said, so you've given all your life to God, and now you're asking me, is there a God? I said, well, if there isn't, Francis will be at the pearly gates, and there'll be a right holy, a party for you, for at least surviving the course, for staying the course. I said, just relax, and I could see him distressed, starting to cry again, so I got up on the bed, removed the pillows, and I held him in my arms, where we both cried together. I shall never forget that. And as I held him in my arms, unknown to him, I prayed with him. I prayed for him, that the Christ would comfort him and give him his peace and healing. And he did, because when I finished my round, he was asleep, but he had a beautiful smile. And in a matter of days, he died. Thank you for watching.